Well, yesterday we spoke to a group of people from WANEP. Today we're on it again because the West African Network for Peace Building, as you know it, has received enormous commendation for its countless initiatives undertaken to promote peace and security as well as conflict prevention in the West African sub-region. It is marking its 20th anniversary. And I've got the Vice President Dr. Baumia actually spoke about them. He's been advocating an ECOWAS financial support for them to continue their positive strides at the opening ceremony of a 3-day conference to commemorate the 20th anniversary. The United Nations Special Representative of the Secretary General for the West Africa and the Sahel, Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, also commended WANEP for their efforts in promoting peace and security, emphasizing the need for its sustainability.
This event is a validation of events of WANEP's invaluable contribution to peace and security in our beloved West African region, the African continent, and even beyond. A recollection of the significant contribution of WANEP to peace and stability in the region over the past 20 years compels me to state boldly that WANEP has made this region a better place. And we can all be proud of its achievements. My friends of the WANEP family, for the past 20 years, you have reached out to marginalized communities, set standards, mobilized stakeholders, influenced policymakers, developed capacities, and empowered the men and women of our region to be at the forefront of conflict prevention and peace-building initiatives.
Ibn Chambers there. With me in the studio right now is the regional coordinator in charge of early warning, Mr. Ifeanyi Okechukwu. Mr. Okechukwu, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I also have here in the studio the National Network Coordinator for Ghana, Mr. Albert Yoyang. Mr. Yoyang, you're welcome. So let's kick off the conversation. Yesterday we had two of your colleagues here. We spoke about this early warning signs. They explained to us what it means. But today we just want to focus, and you've received a lot of commendation from the Vice President as well as the Ibn Chambers. Let's focus on the areas of success. What are the areas of success that WANEP can, point to and say, we did this, our intervention brought this, so we can see how we can build on that going forward into the future. Any of you can begin.
Okay, well, in 20 years of WANEP, we have a lot to talk about, which is one of the reasons why we are celebrating ourselves. But if we can pick some of the key things that have happened in the region that WANEP has intervened, if you look at the issues that happened in Liberia, back in the days when Liberia was at civil war, and Sierra Leone, which of course also gave birth to WANEP initiative, civil societies coming together to address indigenous issues within the region. You could also see our footprints in the mobilization of women under the platform that was called Women Peace and Peacebuilding Network, that was integral to supporting the peace process within Liberia. If you look at the entire WIPNET group that was leading the process, as it were, through the civil society component, complementing what the institutions, ECOWAS and other partners were involved in at the time, you could see that WANEP was integral to that peace process. The second thing that we have been involved in, which of course one of our missions is to look at preventive actions, addressing threats that we see. I'm happy that my colleagues were here yesterday talking about early warning. We don't want to be reactive to the risk and the violence and the conflicts that we see. We've learned that it is better to prevent than to cure. So in terms of early warning, we try to facilitate a local architecture wherever you have political transitions happening across West Africa, to enable both state actors and non-state actors work together to respond to particular threats through the early warning that we provide. So we've been doing that as pretty much the length of
right.
years.
Right. I mean, I can understand the area that within which WANEP operates. It's not an easy area at all. Ms. Ayoyang, I want to come to you. The last time I was in Yendi, I gave you a call and I wanted to interview you, but you were busily, getting involved in trying to sort out a few issues that have to do with what Yendi is enjoying, if I should put it that way, today. So I can say that WANEP has been very instrumental in what Yendi is at the moment. Let me bring it home. Tell us about WANEP's intervention in this country, in some of the conflicts, some of the election issues, that have come up, security related. What are some of the things that you can celebrate WANEP for as far as this country is concerned?
Yeah, thank you, and good evening to your cherished viewers. And like my colleague indicated, it is very difficult at the moment to talk about what really we have achieved, because many people will not see the way we see it. But I always say that without the kind of things that WANEP and other institutions are doing, and also the government providing the enabling environment, we will not even sit here to talk about, trying to count our
successes.
Our successes.
True.
WANEP over the years in Ghana has intervened in several conflicts, and as we know, in terms of peace interventions, it's procedural. You follow a certain process, so it's not one time, And like he said, very often our attempt is to be able to support, the preventive mechanisms, and getting people to be able to engage and providing the platforms. And of course, that's one of the things that, in terms of mission, WANEP does, to provide a platform for communication so that we can prevent violent actions. So we have intervened in Boko, and several interventions in terms of getting the parties to talk, working with the youth, working with the women, and participating in the UNHSP, United Nations Human Security Project, to do analysis of the situations and providing some kind of reports, to various stakeholders to intervene. And in fact, some of the UN agencies try to provide some structural, facilities or initiatives to at least divert the attention of the people, the stakeholders, to engage in meaningful ventures like agriculture, craftsmanship, and all of that. So WANEP has intervened in several areas. In Dagon, as you said, in fact, the formation of WANEP Ghana, when a group of NGOs came together, it was known as the Inter-NGO Consortium, after the 1994 and other conflicts that erupted. They talk about the fact that they needed to intervene proactively, like he said.
Rather than reactively.
Rather than reactive, And unfortunately, in 2004, we were confronted with this situation. So it can be very difficult. It was not to say that people did not foresee what could happen, but you can also ask the question, if there were no interventions at all, what would have been the situation?
What could have been the situation?
So we have actually intervened seriously, and with the Peace Council, who has been who is a national architect. In fact, the Peace Council, started in the Northern region, known as the Northern Region Advocacy Council. Then it became an advisory council, then set up, supported by the late, may he rest in peace, Ernest Deborah, and so it became a structure that worked so well that its successes were promoted by UNDP, then led by one Dr. Ozonia Ojielo, so we have traveled over the period.
The organization has evolved.
UNDP supported, in dialogues in Akosombo, which were facilitated by WANEP. So a lot of things have happened. And indeed, within the early warning mechanism, I can say that we have prevented about 45 violent eruptions across the country. Some of them would have been very explosive. But for the timely gathering of information, doing the analysis and providing the leads, to stakeholders that have the capacity and mandate, to prevent these by engagements, you know, we have
been able to. One of the key things that they spoke about, and all the time when the conversation gets interesting, we run out of time. One of the interesting things I'd like for you to touch on this briefly, so that we call it a wrap, has been sustainability, sustaining the organization. By the way, what you see on their neck is not like it's not a cult group, right? It's not a cult group. Just so you know, it's just to show that WANEP is 20 years, and it's basically WANEP at 20. Yes. Okay. Initially, it looked like a cult. Okay. So just take a very brief comment on you to wrap up. We need to wrap up quickly. Going forward, how do we sustain WANEP? What are some of the interventions quickly, so that let me start with you for the regional level, and then when I come to Mr. Yoyang for Ghana at the Ghanaian level, how do we sustain?
Yes, I think some of the things you already mentioned, His Excellency Dr. Chamba's comments about the necessity to explore opportunity to support civil society work. It has become now obvious to everybody that there's a role, the significant role that CSOs can play in terms of addressing the issues, rising issues of threat within the region. So the ECOWAS, for instance, in terms of the levies that are being allocated for development within the region, Dr. Chambers and other committed analysts and also stakeholders have been talking about the need, to provide support to civil society that will enable it sustain itself.
So hopefully some of that support comes to WANEP.
Yes, so that's what we hope. And as a network also, we also try to develop our own sustainability plan, that enables us to also, as WANEP, not just to depend on external donors, but also to ensure that we're able to have enough funds, both capacity, resources, and human resources that enables us to continue.
Okay, Mr. Yoyang, finally.
I think that basically, for instance, in the case of Ghana, we have a peace architecture. And I would wish that there is that kind of constant support to the Peace Council that also works very closely with civil society institutions like WANEP, across the regions of the country. And I think that the business community needs to see that peace is what makes them exist as business.
So that they can begin to support.
So they can begin to support
WANEP's work.
Yes, WANEP's
work. I'll be very excited to see that as I become a lot more security conscious at the moment. I've been having this conversation with Ifeanyi Okechukwu. He's a regional coordinator for early warning with WANEP. So thank you very much for your time. And also here was on Albert Yoyang. Albert Yoyang is National Network Coordinator. You've seen him a couple of times on Skype here on this show. Mr. Yoyang, thank you for coming.
Pleasure.